the
This
home shopping
conference
space.
will now be recorded.
Oh, you're recording.
Sorry, Sean, that was me. I think I will go ahead and record it if you don't mind. Just
Yeah,
then
sure.
that way people, just no swearing.
Yeah. So I was saying I am a host, casting director. I cast everything, but I do host extensively, and I also coach TV host, and I shoot, direct, and produce TV host reels for folks, and I consult on TV host reel edits, and I cast hosts for all networks and genres, but my super duper specialty is the home shop space. So I cast hosts as well as brand reps for QVC and HSN. I think I've done 30 hosts for QVC.
Wow.
I think 5 for HSN since they've merged, so 35 for the whole company in general. But I also do a lot of their brands, their fashion, beauty, home, fitness, anything. I do it all. So yeah, I mean that's me in a nutshell.
That's awesome. Thank you, Sean. And 35, that is a ton of hosts to cast.
It's, well, not all at once. It's been 11 years.
Yeah, it's over the year. 11 years. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
3 a year.
Well, no, sometimes this year it was 6. Last year it was 10. So it varies. It sort of varies. But also keep in mind, I mean, I cast more than just home shopping. Like right now I'm casting a host for History Channel. So that is my world and my specialty. But I skew all networks.
Awesome. Thank you. Barbara, we're going to hit you up too, if you want to share a little about yourself.
Sure. Well, first thing I just want to say is I hope everyone is safe and feeling safe wherever you are. Show of hands, are most people in Los Angeles? Are there any New Yorkers besides Sean and me?
Vanessa's
in Florida right now, though.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Okay.
Recovering from bronchitis.
I'm a former New Yorker.
So, well, it's really fantastic that everyone's here because these are just really strange times. I do hope that everyone's safe. And it's great that we can kind of be together in community. So to pick up on what Sean was saying, I actually started casting hosts and subject experts and media personalities and I guess influencers before they existed when I was at VH1 in the 90s running the talent development department. Then I went out on my own in 2001. Sean cold emailed me. He just, pitched me out of the blue. It's just an example. I like to bring that up. Oh, someone needs to mute,
Sorry,
I think.
that's me. I'm trying to turn it off, and I'm trying to turn it. I lost the complete picture and everything. I apologize.
Oh, we didn't lose you.
I know, we
Okay,
see you. But that's good,
yeah,
we see you.
I'm
That's
trying
okay.
to mute myself. I would mute myself, but I can't find them.
Don't worry
Sorry,
about
Barbara.
it.
You know what, hon?
There's
if
a
you
way.
move your cursor to the corner of your photo, there's a microphone should come up.
Yeah, I know, but I literally lost the whole entire
The screen.
Yeah.
Did you get it back?
I'm sorry. Keep going. I apologize.
All I was gonna say is the reason I bring this up is because a lot of people don't realize if you write a good pitch letter, you can get far. So Sean wrote me a pitch letter and I responded to, and we met for coffee, and we started casting the Queer Eye pilot back in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did the series in 2003 and tons of stuff after that. So fast forward, still casting. I do now primarily a lot of talent development. I consult for Cheddar, which is a post-cable, I don't even know how to describe it anymore, but it's a millennial-facing news and business network. It also encompasses News 12 in New York. Anyway, and it's just a sidebar, they're doing an amazing job. They've gone 100% remote this week. And it's like control room remote from people's bedrooms, and it's amazing. It's worth watching, and I think they're going to do a story on it. Just the technology side of really broadcasting a network on an iPhone and a computer. But the funniest thing is they all got sent light rings, with the iPhone.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
And I was thinking they were getting super sophisticated equipment. I was like, every host I know has one of those already. So in anticipation of quarantine, I brought home my baby ring, because I realized it's going to get dark on the call for us, for Sean and me.
Right.
Anyway, so Just what I do. So I do still do a lot of talent development and consulting networks and production companies and casting in the space. I also do a lot of media training and media coaching for hosts, spokespeople, executive CEOs, celebrities, everyone on the coaching side. We sort of do media training in the on-camera side, also do a lot of career strategizing, brand work and everything that's encompassed in that, help people with TED Talks, keynote speeches, because everything is communicating now, and everything you do, whether you're a host or a civilian, is we all have to communicate through a lens. And boy, did that just come hitting everybody this week when all of America started working from home and everybody had to start doing their jobs via, webinars and Zoom and Skype and Google. And I've been saying it for years, everybody has to be camera ready, and now we do.
Yeah,
and here we are.
Definitely. Yeah. And that's why I say, this should be our finest hour as hosts. We should definitely have been ahead of the curve. But my general feeling is that we were not as an industry. And so what we were going to talk about today, and we can just kind of do it, free flowing conversation. If something, we'll head off on a trail if it gets a little bit more interesting. But what is it that you as casting directors would tell hosts right now as far as the landscape and what should we be doing to, when jobs are available right now? And what are you seeing on your end of things? And either Sean or Barbara. It's a lot of questions in one. But
I know, well, we'll take that apart. But Sean, do you want to dive in?
Well, I was going to chat about, because Barbara and I were discussing yesterday, as I'm sort of like, I'm currently casting a host right now. So it's interesting for me to see how people are reacting and putting themselves on tape. And a couple of things that are standing out to me. Every single person on their tape is referencing that they are in quarantine, which I find interesting because it's sort of like time stamping it. This is just sort of like what's going on for me personally in my head as I'm watching. I'm like, wow, we are really living in a space where these people are making these tapes and they're really time stamping them of like what is going on at the moment. So for me, it's sort of feeling very kind of time capsule-ish. Does that make sense? I'm also finding that, interestingly enough, I am casting for the History Channel, so a lot of guys are not shaving, and they're all well. This is so interesting. They're not shaving, and they're referencing, "Oh, I have a beard right now because I'm in the house," and I'm thinking to myself, like, why does that make a difference? Like, if you're still in the house, you should still shave for the tape. Right. But the funny thing is, it's actually working in their favor because I've gotten 2 notes today from my client saying, love them in their reel, but love them on their tape with a beard because it's History Channel. I was like, so that's interesting. So it's working there, but I am finding it interesting how like people are referencing that they're home. Everybody's sort of like talking about it. People are feeling really casual on tapes right now. And I find that the tapes that I'm getting this week and last week are so overproduced that I'm emailing them back and saying, hey, I did it twice today actually. Can you please reshoot? Really just follow the guidelines that I sent you, scale it down because people are inserting their own video. They're because they're commenting on a video for me. So they're putting the video here and then they're talking there and they're making all of this like fancy graphics and stuff, and it's turning my producers off. So they're like, we can't do anything with this because then what they have to do is they have to edit. And I don't know if you all know this, when you all make tapes for us, we then send them to our clients who then edit them down before they send them to network. So my producers can't cut around what people are adding in and sort of bells and whistles. I don't know if they're bored or it's something that people are doing in 2020, but it's kind of like working against them for me. Was that the question? I don't even know.
I think that's helpful for us to know because I think we may have touched on this before, but the hosting industry is a little bit behind in terms of self-tapes and self-tape auditions. And I guarantee, like, how many of you, just raise your hands if you've done a self-tape audition for a casting? Okay, so maybe half or so. So not everyone has done self-tapes in hosting, whereas on the acting side of the business, that's pretty much been the norm for probably, especially the last year, maybe even a couple of years in there. And so I think it's helpful for us as hosts to know what we need to do to be ready, because I don't know if you and Barbara feel this way, but I feel like this is going to be the new normal going forward, just because it saves a lot of money for the casting agents and everybody else not to have this physical office necessarily the first time around. I know here in LA, at least, sometimes they are renting a space for a casting. And I think, if they can eliminate that the first or second round, it probably seems like that's what they're going to be doing since they're doing it now. What do you guys think about that?
Well, Shay, if I can jump in there, Sean. Shay, it's been the normal for me for years.
And me. This is what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it depends on where you are in your career. So broadly speaking, to your first part of the question, now is a great time to be working on all these things, because to your point, it's not new. For the work Sean and I do, this is going 5 years ago, 7 years ago, when I did stuff, a short-lived talk show for E! and stuff. People were self-taping. I did projects for tons of things for travel, Bravo. So everything I did, if it's on a national scale or international scale, you're asking people to self-tape. So a general process right now for everyone to get used to, and now's a really great time to do it, is you want to master how to submit, whether you have an agent or not, and to start to understand what a really good submission letter looks like. And broadly speaking, what I'll say is there's actually a version in my book, and there's some stuff on my website, but what I'll broadly say is you need to identify, one, your value, not that you just can do the job, but what problems do you solve for the production company or the network, and you need to understand what their needs are and why you're a good fit, and you need to articulate those with an upbeat attitude that displays your personality on the page. Two, you need to learn to self-tape, because if you get past the clutter and we click on yours and like, yes, oh, but to digress for 1 second, Sean and I talk about this all the time too. If you're submitting through breakdown services or Actors Access, write a note, because in this kind of space, it is such a way for you to stand out. And it takes you, 2 seconds to highlight, oh, hey, I'd be great for this because, or I have this special experience or something. But writing a note really helps you stand out, especially when we get thousands of submissions via breakdown, Actors Access, and casting networks, not to mention emails. So that's the first step. Then you get invited to self-tape. We'll get into specifics, but broadly speaking, Sean and I talk about this all the time. Number one, follow the instructions, because whether it's us or a lot of things, we send really detailed instructions. So you want to read the email a few times, because it's funny. It's like you get excited, like, hi, you've been invited to self-tape. So the adrenaline kicks in and you may miss details. You're like skimming through and you're all excited and you want to do it. So take a breath, reread it, really understand what they're asking for, read the instructions. And the same thing too is before you hit send to send it back, go back through the instructions. Did I do everything that's supposed to happen? That's the, so then you're mastering the self-tape, and they're broad, ideas. It's like, we need to be able to see you. So we care about, lighting, but to Sean's point, relaxed, natural, audio matters, etc. And then the next thing you got to master is how to audition via Skype, because that has been industry standard forever. And to your point, Shay, I love saying this. It's like Jennifer Lawrence auditioned for Silver Linings Playbook via Skype. She got the job. Yeah. She got the Oscar. And in our world, we've been doing it for 10 years, 11 years. I think I first installed Call Recorder for Skype 11 years ago or something. So you need to master, because it's not new. It's been what we've been doing for years, but I definitely see a lot of younger hosts that, just depending on where you're at career, have not done it. And there's a little bit of a resistance to it. And you guys can speak to why, maybe because it's mysterious or it's not the fun part. But I got to tell you, this is how people get jobs. A lot of times you don't get to audition in person till the callbacks, when it gets probably into chemistry testing or someone's going to fly you in. I got dozens of shows over the past few years that have played out that way.
I want to piggyback on Barbara's the discussion about notes, you have no idea. If you've ever seen one of my castings on Breakdown Services or Casting Networks or Backstage, I even use Casting Frontier. If you have ever seen any of my postings, I am so intense about telling people to include a note. Anything that is related to the show that I'm casting, because when we so you see what you guys see, what you all see right now, imagine that smaller, okay, and imagine it 50 trillion pages of that. And then listen, I'm casting for a host right now. I cast for a host. I released I must have host and journalism experience or whatever it may be, but I gotta tell you, everybody and their grandmother is submitting, whether they're really a legit host or not. So I have to go through all that, right? So, and these sites on our end are not really ideal. Like sometimes we know that there's a link or a video with their submission because it has the icon. So I think it's Casting Networks list everybody. I can filter like everybody with a video first. So I'm going to go through everybody that has a video because I know that's going to be number one because I have to see them walking and talking. Number two is I am literally scanning for notes. Literally scanning for notes because I got to tell you, if it's 20 trillion people, a note is what's going to get my attention. It does not need to be long. It just needs to be a note. And I put it in highlights. I put it in I put it everywhere, and I'm in shock that people don't take advantage of it. It's unbelievable. And I also wanted to just piggyback on the idea of we're talking about making a tape in Skype. And keep in mind, you're all in LA right now with some of us New York folks here. Everything that I cast is not, I mean, I do cast things that sometimes just shoot in New York or just shoot in LA, but the majority of what I'm doing is a national casting. So I'm looking for a host in Chicago. I'm looking for a host in Dubuque, Iowa. I'm looking for hosts all over the country. I know that New York and LA are our big markets, but we are looking for hosts everywhere. So there really isn't a choice for them to come into the room at all. And I gotta tell you, Barbara and I talk about this a lot. The last time, Barbara, I mean, I think the last time I was in one time Barbara and I actually ran into each other in a casting studio, but never am I in a casting studio. I mean, Barbara has an office where she can bring people in, which is really great. I don't, so I'm renting more when I need to, but the majority of time, I mean, I don't even know the last time. I mean, I work in one studio that I love here in New York, but I think it's just QVC callbacks that I rent a studio for. I don't know where else I go into a studio anymore. It's unfortunate though, because we had some great relationships with studios here in New York that kind of went away. So.
And what would you guys say then right now is the way for a host to position themselves in terms of, you know, COVID-19 and everything? What are some of the advice that you would give?
I don't know that I understand the question.
In terms of preparation right now, you know, we're talking self-tapes. Is there, you know, is the reel as important, for example, right now, since we're going to be self-taping, or what does COVID-19 change what we've been doing as far as from a casting perspective? And
for me, I don't think so. I think that it's just suddenly thrown everybody into understanding how it's been for a long time. To Sean's point, I just want to go back. It's like, I mean, it's crazy right now. So it's, you know, you have to pause and realize, but it's not going to stay like this forever. So by the way, there could, you know, be an increased sense of social distancing going on, which will likely increase the self-taping and communicating this way. And by the way, it is so much more cost effective and faster, so that will continue. But so to Sean's point, I would encourage everyone, it's not exactly what you asked, but it's like to maintain your professionalism. And it's also one of the things that's going to help keep it together right now. It's to the point, it's like, you know, keep your office hours, and especially if you're not used to working from home, like start to define, set boundaries for yourself. It is important, like you get up, shower, you know, stretch, move, whatever you can do, put on makeup, because honestly, I wouldn't be necessarily, it depends on what the project's for, but so for a lot of things, I wouldn't be referencing what's going on. I might in a sidebar, but I don't necessarily think I'd put it in the tape, especially for the things I work on.
It's happening in every single tape, Barbara, I'm getting.
Wow, that's good to know.
I can understand that because this is a, you know, weird times, but it's going to, I know it sounds horrible, but it's normalized. You know, I mean, I got to tell you, like New York, it was sunny today, but these are dark days in New York because a lot of people are sick and a lot of people are dying. So these are really extraordinary times. But in the coming weeks, I just think it's like you're working from home and you need to maintain your professionalism, however you define that. So the other thing, to your point, Shay, is so these weird times also, it's like if I'm a production company, things will ramp up. I don't know when, but so it now really is a great time. And it's really smart that you're offering these incredible webinars, you know, several times a week, because it will get back to normal. So now is a time to actually start to prepare. Production companies are preparing. Networks a lot of people are banking things so that they can hit the ground running when they go back into production, which is why there is casting still going on, not face to face, but all this virtual work, because people will get back to work and they want to be ready as soon as they can, because people are going to need new product. So things that any host can be doing is, one is starting to your point, it's just like start practicing. And whether you're posting content or not is not necessarily issue. You want to get comfortable with all the different platforms. Skype with friends. Start to learn about, you know, simple production design, which is so funny. It's like I'm not doing my own thing, but I have 3 adults in my apartment, and it's, you know, 7:30 at night or whatever. So I got to go hide in my bedroom, right? Because otherwise I have a nice little setup. Anyway. But you want to think just like what kind of equipment do you need, and it goes back to the idea that to get good at this does not have to be expensive. This is really affordable, but now's the time to like practice and learn how to like, because at the end of the day, it's all about communicating through that lens, and you need to be able to talk to Sean or talk to me or talk to that network and not at them. And so you need to get comfortable because every camera is different, right? So how you talk to your computer is different than how you talk to your phone or your you know, your tablet, which is different than if you actually have a full-on video camera. So now's the time to be practicing all those sorts of things. Now's a great time to be doing research. Who are the players? What are the trends moving forward? And to your point, Shay, I think reels will always matter, but Vanessa knows this because we, you know, are in groups together, but there is so important. Like, here's my reel, and here's a fun little 45-second video I made for you in addition, because a lot of times your reel shows that you can do stuff and you have skills, but they may not necessarily be obviously translatable to the project. Another thing, and a perfect example is a lot of people from news will send me their anchor reels for lifestyle shows. And so Sean and I are in the business of seeing potential in people. That's why we're good at what we do, and that's why we do what we do. Our clients are not in the seeing the potential in you business. They're in the we're going to spend a lot of money and we need to be sure, and we're mitigating risk. So they need to know that you can do it. So if I've only seen you behind an anchor desk and you want to be doing a house flipping show, it's on you. Be proactive, and just, it doesn't, to Sean's point, doesn't have to be fancy. Don't want fancy. Just, you know, fun thing. Here we are taking a sledgehammer to the wall because we're starting to flip this project. We just need to see that you can do it. By the way, sidebar note on that, the same thing now, you know, years ago, if you were an author and you got a book through a major publisher, chances are you could get on the Today Show or Good Morning America. Now the competition is so fierce that authors have to self-tape and create tapes to prove that there'll be a fun segment. And by the way, you customize your tape. You don't just do one. You'd be like, hello, Today Show, or if that makes sense. So you know, to the victor go the spoils. So the more proactive you are, the more comfortable you are, just you know, learning simple editing, whatever you need to do to, you know, make, not fancy, just the little things that are competitive to make the optics good, because those little things make the difference and move you ahead. And so one of the things I would encourage is to actually do a self-audit now and understand, what are my skills? There are my hosting skills, but what are my like production skills? What are my business skills? And start to understand, where are your strengths? Where are your weaknesses? What do you need to work on? And now's a great time, and not to overwhelm, that, you know, prioritize, pick, like, you know what's the one thing you could do today or tomorrow that's going to move your career forward? Focus on that. And then as you get that going, add to that.
Yeah, I actually took notes on what Barbara was saying, because I wanted to sort of piggyback on some of her stuff. And by the way, my lighting has changed dramatically.
I noticed that. I'm like, Sean's in the middle of the darkness, but that's okay. As long as we
No,
can hear you.
because I'm by
So
my
this
window.
is a self-tape no, right? We don't want to be dark.
No,
for
you know what? Well, but yeah, the lighting, the sun literally went down as we were.
Yeah, I saw it go down. It was really funny.
So you had asked about the change in the industry, and Barbara and I actually had this conversation yesterday. We were talking about it. Again, I sort of what Barbara said, I'm not 100% sure. Like for me, so I will be honest, I'm getting pressure from my client for some reason. And I feel like I don't know what the rush is. So maybe people are banking, like Barbara had referenced. I feel so. I don't really know if there's an answer to like the current situation and how that's changing or what we need to do. But I wanted to talk about when Barbara was referencing like a little goes a long way with your Skype, and how I said, you don't have to overproduce it. It doesn't need to be. And I even write in my notes, don't overproduce. But I love sharing a story. There was a host in New York that I put on tape a lot. We work with, and she had made a tape for me for casting I was doing, and I was out on Fire Island, which is a beach community here in New York, and I was at my friend's house, and I was watching. I signed on to do a Skype in the kitchen. So I was sitting in the kitchen, and she had this really beautiful space in her home that she decided this is where she does Skypes, and it was really. And she's also done it on her porch for me before, and my friend had walked behind me while I was Skyping, and he literally stopped in his tracks. He's like, "Wow, that looks really great. This is like I'm just a friend." So I love sharing that story, how a little goes a long way on where you're Skyping, where you choose to. All the tapes that I'm getting now are kind of really fun and interesting because like people have these home offices, so they're Skyping in these home offices. So I kind of wanted to just touch base a little bit on that. And then Barbara was also talking about the idea of potential that I wanted to kind of just briefly talk about. Is it's so interesting for me as a casting director because I think I have a tendency to overcast a little bit, which I know might sound a little strange on your end to hear, but like for me, it's like I like seeing lots of different people and lots of different options for my client. And sometimes I always find it a challenge to share with my client how many people I'm actually putting on tape for them or seeing, because they start to think like, wait, like, why are you doing that much? And what is it that you're not getting that we need? And for me as a casting director, I'm like, well, I know what you need, but I feel like sometimes I got to show them more than what they think they need, because sometimes they don't know. Like I will tell you, for this History Channel job I'm casting right now, there's a bunch of guys who just strictly do sports who are going far to the next phase, and I didn't know that sports was going to work for them. I didn't realize that sports was going to be the skill set. A sports host broadcaster has a very different vibe than a hard news. So I didn't know that sports was gonna that vibe was gonna work for them. And now all of a sudden, like a week and a half in, I'm showing them sports guys, and they're like, "Oh wow, we love this guy. We love this guy." So that's where the potential comes in. That's where we have to really start thinking outside the box, and that's maybe where when Barbara was saying, "Okay, if you're a sports guy, then also maybe take a little bit of a moment to write in your note, I do sports, but," and then here's another 30-second, clip of me not at the sports desk. That's what's been working for me on this particular project I'm casting.
Great. I know we would love to be a fly on the wall between a conversation between you and Barbara.
Oh, we have. we chat a lot. We chat a lot. We do our check-ins. It's interesting for us. I mean, you as talent, us as casting directors, we're all sort of in the. So we check in. We should have our group. We check in just as much as you all check in. It's important.
Yeah, and I want to, unless there's something you want to continue to touch on, I wanted to leave some time for questions as well.
Oh, sure.
So is there more that you wanted to, how about you, Barbara?
No, questions would be great.
Okay, so the way we'll do it, I'd love to have some questions, and I'm not going to at first try to mute and unmute you guys, so just if you hear somebody start, just hold off and wait your turn till the next one. And Sonali, that's fine, we can start with Sonali, and then like I said, just I'm going to let you guys as a group kind of when it's when the person's done, go ahead and just start. We'll give that a try rather than me trying to mute and unmute everybody. Okay, go ahead, Sonali. We'll start with you though.
Okay. Hi, Sean. Hi, Barbara. My name is Sonali. Sean, you and I have communicated via email before. Meet you virtually in person. I'm based here in LA, and I'm originally from East Coast, New Jersey, then New York. I've done hosting work in terms of
Sonali, your audio is bad, so I'm gonna have to move on because we can't understand what you're saying for some reason. So I don't know if you have like a headset like this that you could plug in, but that'll help.
The comment section as well. There's a little comment you can write in there.
Yeah.
I was going to ask where the comments are, and otherwise,
it's a little icon, the question, the bubble.
Oh, at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you just click on it and write your question there.
Yeah. So why don't we go on to the next person's question then, and Sonali, we'll come back to you. Who wants to jump in?
I'll just jump in. Hi.
Oh, hey, Vanessa, New York.
This is a very basic question, but it comes up a lot for me. I'm a definite note writer. I love to like give a little background on myself. On casting networks, they actually only give you like like
140 characters.
There's not a lot that you can write, and they also won't let you put any links to websites in there. So I'm always trying to figure out ways to get someone's attention in a very limited amount of space. Whereas with Actors Access, you have a lot more territory to present yourself. So in that sort of situation, what are you looking for in a really short, 1 to max 2 sentence overview?
For me, if you have a reel, that I would put in more than anything else. Interestingly enough, I mean, I feel like it's reference the show you're working. You know what? For me, now I'm really thinking about it. Even if you just acknowledge that tell me what you think about this, Barbara. If you acknowledge that what you're submitting for, goes a long way. Because I think a lot of people are just clicking. If you just write, hey, Sean, this is such a great mystery host casting that you're doing, I think I'm in already. I'm ready to open up I'm ready to click on your photo. But I also want to comment on what Vanessa does. Is Vanessa actually emails me directly a lot of times once she sees my castings. I mean, we're friends, we know each other. So maybe she feels more comfortable with that. But I also do, when I coach people, I encourage them that it's okay to reach out to us, especially in the host casting space, because we're in the business of getting to know you as people. Whereas I think maybe if you're an actor outside of a host, you might be afraid of the casting director. But I tell this to everybody, that I feel like the host casting directors out there are more wanting to get to know you, so that's okay. So yeah, Vanessa always emails me and says, hey, P.S. I sent you an email over here, or so that's okay too. But I mean, but did you say, Vanessa, you can't put the link in?
They don't allow a link.
You're not allowed
to your
put
reel.
a link to any website. So I have a trick that I snuck around before I uploaded my reel to casting networks, which is if you put a period after like the .com or .net, it lets you, or it's something weird where if you put a period, it doesn't recognize it as a website. Like you don't put, for me, I have vanessaray.net. So I don't put any www, and I'm just like, you can watch my reel at vanessaray.net, and I put a period, and then it doesn't register it as a website for some reason. But if you use any www, or if you don't put that period at the end, it says you put an illegal character in.
Well, wait,
Yeah, that's how I get around it too.
Are you saying you can put www.vanessa.ray.com, but you can put a YouTube link to your reel, correct?
No, you can't.
Not if it starts with www.
Any website of any kind for Actors Access you can, for casting networks you can't. So sometimes people say, oh, put a link to your reel in.
Oh, I say that all the time.
No, but it has a very short amount that you can write, and you can't put any web links in.
But not even
so
Not even a
No,
YouTuber of him.
no. So if
No.
you have a website in your name, this is where it's helpful. So I'll just do like AT, like a big at Shay Holland. So I'll say find
Right.
my real at Shay Holland. But no, if it sees a www or an H, something that looks like a website, you'll get a notice actually from the interface saying it looks like you're trying to put in a web link, and then it won't let you do the submission.
I would take Vanessa and Shay's note here. If you say just go to Vanessa Ray, I know I will know it's
Right.
I will know it's
Yeah.
www. But you can say go to Vanessa Ray. I don't. Interesting. I
Or
feel like I get
or I'll
it.
say find Shay Holland on YouTube, and it's an extra step for them, but it's the only workaround unless you pay a ton of money. I can't remember how much it is to have. I think I'm paying. Well, it's not that much actually now anymore on casting networks. It's $25 a month.
Yeah.
But I know some people have paid a lot more on Actors Access to get their reels on there and stuff. So it's they're making money off of us now.
Well, you have to have
like
a
a
reel.
way
I mean,
for
if you
us.
have a reel, you got to share it. I guess that's the takeaway.
Vanessa, I want to answer your question
Actors
because I
Access
think
is
it
the
is a
worst.
really good question. Was the idea that, to Sean's point, like referencing the project, but in general for anything for you guys, it is the notion of acknowledging the key words, right? It's going back to what the casting said, without being too glib and just cutting and pasting, but it's like highlighting what is needed. So when I was working on something, anyway, because to your point, it's probably my least favorite platform because it's one of the hardest to post on for us as well. And I get limited resources back, but it's great if there's specifics and it's well written. You could be like, I am, and I do this, or I'm great, or I have experience in this, or I specialize in this. But identify, it's the same idea as a keyword search. It's just you're gonna stand out because of it.
Yeah, and we talked about that in our, we did a resume workshop, resume bio and cover letter, and it was like in that 1 to 2 sentences, that really needs to sum up, the main points. And it's good because for casting networks, you are only going to have the 1 or 2 sentences. So yeah, let's have some more questions.
Okay, so I noticed that you guys recommend going on Actors Access and LA Casting, but each time that I've had a subscription with both of those websites, I've never seen posting jobs, or when I do, it's like super, super rare. Is there any other way to apply to hosting positions that you guys recommend other than using Post in LA or Actors Access Casting?
Okay, I'm going to ask a question. That's actually a really legitimate question. And I know it gets specialized because I definitely know people who find jobs on these platforms, and then a lot of people say they don't. So I hear that it's hit or miss. So one of the things, so it depends on what you're looking for and what your skill sets are, because there's certainly a lot of things going up on like Indeed.com, especially depending on if they're coming through the network level. The other thing too is to ask, how proactive are you all in content and sending materials out really thoughtfully to casting directors, production companies? I hope everybody's remembering to think about the people who do casting at advertising agencies, because that's where a lot of the branded content comes that is really good for hosts. Reaching out to digital agencies, which are just a fancy digital way of saying production company, but sending, a curated, like not a blast, but dear so-and-so, and you've done your research. This is, and really highlighting what your skills are and asking them to keep you on file, right? So that's another way of getting ahead of it. And putting it out there so it's not always that feeling of being reactive, only looking for jobs that exist. Staying on top of things that's where it gets into this whole other thing that I really recommend for everyone is you're looking, it's like, how many hours per week do you spend on your hosting career? Really do that. Like actually, I don't know if you're lucky enough, if it's a full-time job, but for a lot of people, you have other jobs. So it's like, how many hours per day, per week do you devote to this? And so part of it should be the working on your skills, but another part of it is your networking and marketing. And another big part of it is your research, and you're staying on top of what's happening in the industry. So you're seeing as people move around with jobs, you're seeing so that you could proactively write to someone or you see things have been announced. It's like, hey, I'd be really good for this, or I'd like to meet. The other thing I recommend all the time to people, and it's crazy right now, but because it's we're in special circumstances, but is to create a savings account for your career so that you can take advantage of opportunities, because it's hard when you're not monetized. But one of the ways that I've known people to meet me or to get jobs is because they bought a ticket to either attend a festival, go to some sort of, really like a breakfast or something where you're, 100 people in front of that really important key executive, and you got a chance to shake their hand, and then you got a chance to follow up with an email. But these are all different strategies and a way of like getting to know people so that you're not always just one in the crowd looking for that job. Joining Women in Film and Television, which matters in New York, attending events, volunteering for events. If there's ever a festival again, being able to like work at that festival and meet people. Just go, being active in that way, because I do understand how frustrating it is when you're only just looking for postings, and understanding, depending on the things that we work on, not everything gets posted in those sort of traditional spaces.
Mm-hmm. And you talked about highlighting skill sets. I've noticed a lot, especially lately, a lot of these things are like really, really niche, really specific, like looking for an interior designer who also happens to be a host, who's also good on camera and knows how to do home renovation, or like looking for a dentist who knows how to speak about health. It's like so specific. Do you think everything is going in that direction of an expert nowadays? Like, do you have to
Oh my
have
God.
expertise?
I have to say, for us, it's been decades. I mean, yes, it's that, yes. But so you'd be surprised. You have to stop and think about, like, you do have, like, the whole point is you probably have skills and specialties you didn't realize. Or the other thing too is like actually think about like what your interests are, and you can, and that's hard. I mean, like HGTV is always going to be looking for interior designers. I don't know who's looking for the dentist, but I guess someone always will be looking for a dentist. But to your
TLC,
point, like
maybe.
all those people do need to have really good, host skills. So hosts are needed, but it's starting to maximize like what are your other skills, and what can you go get a little certification in if you're interested in it, because anyway, does that start to make sense? It's like, to your point, because there's a reason why Steve Harvey hosts everything. It's like there are not that many general host gigs anyway.
Yeah, there's just not anymore.
There haven't been for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It is niche. It's like you're really pop culture. You're really, whatever, extreme travel, whatever that is. You're like the budget traveler. You're the this or the that. But yes.
Yeah, like my sister is getting ready she just had she has an amazing career training government workers on travel, which travel is huge, but to get it from like how the government does and the secrets that they know, and I said, hey, that's great, but you can take that a further step in your niche. It's very interesting as it was, but she's also plus size. I said, what if you incorporate, I mean, there's nobody really doing that who's doing like these secret tips for plus size travelers. And so I'm like, I'm not going to do it for you. But I think it is like, if you can find, your gem, your jewel these days, that's really going to be the way that we have to stand out, especially, in this, complete virtual world where everybody from, around the world, you guys have talked about this before, sometimes you're getting 5,000-10,000 submissions for one role.
So, Mina, I wanted to just answer you real quick, because you had said something that triggered me. You had said that you see casting notices that say looking for an interior designer that might be a host, whereas it's really actually the opposite. It's, are you a host that has an interest or expertise in interior designing? So I'm just sort of bringing that up to you so you don't feel so frustrated that you think that it's the interior designer that has to have the host skill set, as much as it's, we're asking, do you have an interest? And I gotta tell you, I word it, and Barbara, you too, we word it interest or expertise. Because we understand, unless we are, and Barbara and I have went down the road where we're just emailing, we're looking for interior designers, and we go through the interior designer route. But for me, I'm also looking to accept submissions from a host. Yes?
Are we in the circle of trust?
Yeah.
Okay, so total like
I love that circle of trust.
So this is a total insider thing, is that at the network level, it's very important, and it's legitimately very important about expertise and credibility. And I've been dealing with this for a long, like 15 years was the idea, because even Man versus Food was an example of that. Like when I cast that, the idea that somebody had to be credible in the competitive eating space. And we went through so much trying to, sell Adam Richman up the ranks till we finally did. And it's like, was massive. But anyway, the reason I bring this up is the producers want someone who's going to be great on TV. So we do, but the network needs to feel like this person was really credible because they've done all this research that says this is what our audience wants, which is probably true, right? But the productions company like, credible? We don't care about credible. We need somebody who's going to be really freaking good on camera. And our job is to find that happy medium for everyone, right? So there's a lot of like massaging. So going back to Sean's point, which is why we're like, passionate interest in, but there are ways that, so that's like, so to this point, it's like you could be a super fan of something, like a really,
that's
like,
good.
I'm an amateur XYZ, like I don't get paid to do interior design, but I've, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's the same thing when we get into any number of categories. Same thing with being like a really passionate home cook. It's just, you really have to know your stuff. And so there are categories where you're like, I'm kind of interested. It's like bone up on it, right? So that you could, pass, because at the end of the day, good on TV. On the other flip side, otherwise that gets sent to me to go to like TV crash course school.
And then put it in your notes.
Start filming.
Yeah.
To Sean's point though, because if you have an agent or not, we won't know from reading your resume. So that is what the notes are for. Oh, by the way, I have a certified in this, or I don't care what the skill is. It's like, let us know, because we're not going to be able to, glean it otherwise.
I want to, real quick before Ashley, before you ask your question, I want to, so two things. One is, for me, it really, the most important time that for the home shopping space is when the expertise is really, really, really specific for me. But otherwise, like with Barbara and I have been telling you, like there's a lot of workarounds on our end, and that's why we post passion and strong interest. So home shopping is where I get stuck with, like, they really want that credibility. But I wanted just to throw out a few other places where I have found successful hosts from. And
Can I jump in 1 second, Sean? I apologize, because I actually have to hop off the call because I've got to get on a call at 8 o'clock, and we have like 4 more minutes, and I'm out of battery. Can I just say, like, thank you so much for inviting me.
I know I have a
Thank you.
Thank you, and that was great, you guys.
Oh, thank you for showing up.
Thank you, Barbara.
Take really good care.
Yeah, everybody can unmute yourself for a second. Sean, if we can keep you for 1 second, and then everybody say goodbye to Barbara.
Bye,
Barbara.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Barbara.
See you, Barbara. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and then let's have everybody mute yourselves again, and we're going to go back to Sean, because I know you're in the middle of a thought.
I was just going to say a place where I have found success posting for hosts, even though it sounds more newsy, is iHire Broadcasting, Broadcast Career Links, National Association of Black Journalists, National Association of Hispanic Journalists. I know it might sound a little more news than host for you all. I don't know how much it costs on your end. I don't know. I have no idea. But I got to tell you, as I post on those sites, I get folks who are submitting to me that I also know from Actors Access, Cast Networks, etc. So just another maybe place. And then I also tell people, like, I have a casting page. Barbara has a casting page. And these are not our personal Facebook accounts. These are our Sean DeSimone Casting, Abel Intermedia. And I feel like other casting directors have casting pages that you might want to start following. Like I now have an Instagram that's Sean_DeSimone_casting. So I'll post a video of me talking about my casting. So, we're trying to find creative ways of getting the word out as well. Because I understand that with cast networks and Actors Access and Frontier, et cetera, can get a little, you feel like you've seen it a million times, you're on there all the time, nothing's popping up. So I always tell people, find our personal casting pages. Like mine is Sean DeSimone Casting. Again, Barbara's Abel Intermedia. trying to think like who else I know that has them. And
What was the one that you said? Not iHire Broadcasting, but the second one?
Broadcast Career Link. And again, I don't know what it looks like on your end. Just so you know, like, don't turn around like, oh, why did he send me here? It's $1,000 to join, and there's nothing on here but news jobs. I don't know. I just know that I've been posting my lifestyle stuff on there.
Yeah, they do have a lot of news jobs, but
Yeah, but I gotta tell you, I've been putting my stuff on there, and I'm getting.
Yeah. A lot of. Well, I think a lot of journalists are trying to get out of the hard news into the hosting space too, and they have the skill set. So.
Well, that's my
And Sean, I just want to. Yeah, it's journal. Yeah, I know you're great with that. And I just want to ask you a question too, and then we won't keep you too much longer. But is there a big difference when you get a submission that comes from an agent versus a self-submission from someone like on one of the sites?
No, not for me. And I know people are like shocked
that doesn't
to hear that.
impact you. Great.
No, because I look at it all.
I think
you know.
Yeah. And the reason I ask that is because people in my group are always like, I need an agent. Need an agent. And I try to tell them, no, that's not like, that's great, but you don't need the agent to get the work.
Yes, it is great, but you do not need the agent to get the work. You know, I'm a big, you know, I mean, you guys call it actors access. We call it breakdown services because on your end it's actors access because you're submitting yourself through the actors access platform. So when I sign on the breakdowns, it's sort of broken down into two. It's broken down for me as like a tab. Like everybody that's an agent is sort of in one sort of easy to navigate section, and everyone who submitted independently without an agent is another sort of pull down. So I sort of look at them separately just to kind of keep my sanity. But I feel like agents, you know, they're great in some respects and they're challenging in others. I feel like they'll probably be presenting you a little bit more, like they're a little bit more, they'll pitch you maybe better than you can yourself. But and I would say, like, does an agent mean that you're better? No.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, okay, here's the safe circle, right? This is the safe circle again.
I like the circle of trust. Circle of trust.
This is the circle of trust again. I find it shocking that agents will. So I have friends. I'm friendly with a lot of hosts, and they're friendly with agents. And some people will say, "Hey, can you share my materials with so and so?" And you know, I'll do it. But I find it sometimes interesting that an agent will say, "Oh, we already have, you know, male 30s." I'm like, really? Like, so that frustrates me. And I'm not challenged, so I don't need to try to get an agent's attention. But that's what frustrates me sometimes about agents is that they have a roster has to get their money.
Mute. Sorry, Sean. Somebody needs to mute themselves. Everybody mute, or I'm gonna have to do it. Thank you. Here we go. Okay, sorry.
An agent has a roster, but sometimes I find they limit themselves to their roster and like what's on the roster. If they already have like a Shay Holland, are they gonna want another one? Because I mean, again, I'm not at an agency, so like I don't know what kind of pressure they're getting on from their higher ups. Like, you can't have two Shays because only one Shay can get us the job. Like, I don't know what's going on over there. That's just what frustrates me on my end. Like, they kind of only want one, you know, guy who does fashion. They don't want 7 of them because I don't know. That's just what I sort of get from it.
Yeah, that's definitely it. Well, Sean, you guys, I know we have a lot of questions, but I don't want to keep Sean too long because he's on the East Coast. And so let's just take one more and then we'll have to wrap it up after that. And I'm going to go back to Sonali and see if her mic is on. We started with her, but yeah, so this will be the last one.
Thank you.
You have your mic?
I do, but can you hear me? I did type in my question in the chat.
Okay, let me.
I've hosted game shows, film festivals, and wedding expos in South Asian community. I've been trained by Shannon. Is this one you want me to read?
Yes.
How can I leverage my experience?
Yes, I'll send all the info.
Book opportunities in the mainstream sector. So people, I get a lot of comments when I post my castings, like, oh, why are you only looking for a male? Or you sure you don't want a man? Are you sure you don't want a female? Or is it only, I don't think I ever posted anything that's based on ethnicity in the host space, because it doesn't really come into play.
Never
But
seen
the only
it.
time for me it comes into play is it like demographic. Networks are male or networks are female, and that's like the end of it. You know what I mean? Like female-based networks are female-based networks. Oxygen, We, et cetera. Discovery, History, Net Geo is geared towards men. So when I'm casting for those networks, I'm usually casting a male or female. And I've gotten lots of comments like, why? I'm like, because it's the demographic. That's who's watching it. That's the audience.
Right.
I gotta tell you, Sonali, I don't get a lot of, you don't really go specific on the ethnicity. And I always tell people, we don't even really go specific, because I'm not looking for a specific ethnic type. I'm looking for like a real I'm looking for a host. The only time I'm really specific is male or female.
Right, and I just see if they're bilingual or can know several languages, I've definitely seen where that can benefit, but that doesn't really have to do with, you're not asking necessarily for, it's that the station is looking for that, or the network or whoever is looking for bilingual.
Oh, Vanessa, I saw what you typed. Yeah, I agree. Vanessa, I saw what you typed. Yes, that is the ones that I mentioned. Again, don't hold me against it if there are 1,000. I don't know.
And I'll send out a link. Yes, I will be sending out a link to, or at least that information.
I just been posting on
Sean, we can't tell you how much we just appreciate hearing from your side of the business and just how encouraging you are. I wish we had more time for these, but I want to respect your time. And I know, what time is it on the East Coast now? It's 8 o'clock at night already afterward. So you guys,
we wanted to do
you have anything you want to wrap up with? Or?
I mean, like, just keep me posted. Let me know when you're doing another one and what the topic is. I feel like sometimes you have the topic, but then it could be a million and one things when we're talking. Like, I think something about Reels would be interesting for you all. You can maybe have something like that.
That's yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate what you're doing for the LA host. I don't know. We also have hosts in New York, which is, I feel like, less active as hosts in LA. But I see Kate down there. She's in New York. We got Vanessa in New York. Is anybody else in New York? No. Well, I know Vanessa, Vanessa and Kate. I feel like what you're doing is really fantastic. I feel like it's awesome, and good job. And
thanks. Yeah, for the virtual stuff, we'll definitely start posting in the host in New York as well. So, that is one of the benefits of this time we're in. It definitely, I feel like, has broadened the community and made it, very much a global community now. So we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us here in LA tonight. So that's a treat.
Do you have anything to do with Host in New York, or are you completely
we're two completely separate things. I have thought about offering to this circle of trust to take over that group, because I don't feel like it's maximizing the opportunities there. And some of our hosts would definitely be willing to either move to New York or fly to New York, like you were saying. They would definitely be willing to. And so that's a conversation we'll have to have.
You all see, like, if it will say like a national casting, you're like, is host in LA mainly, are all of the jobs that go on there LA-based castings?
No, we'll do, I'll put, that you must be willing to travel or whatever. So we're definitely open. In general, the castings we do get a lot of LA-based. But if it's not, we'll say, or you have to do it at your own expense, and that's what we'll say, that, if it's something out of the state where they're auditioning. So.
Gotcha. And another shout out to something that you're doing that's really great is when you allot days for certain things. Like today is share your services, and then today share your work, which is nice because it doesn't like oversaturate my Facebook feed.
Right.
And it's easy to navigate. So good job. And everybody, see you soon.
Thank you, Sean.
Right now by the beach, like you were all talking about.
Sorry. We'll send you pictures.
Yeah. So thanks so much. I'll see you all soon, and keep in touch with me, and I'll keep in touch with you all.
Love you, Sean.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you. Bye, Sean. Thank you.
That was great.
Before I hang up, how do I hang up before you start talking about me?
I'll hang up.
How do I hang
talk
up?
about you, Sean.
In the
You
bottom,
can never leave.
There's a leave
Say
button.
leave meeting.
I don't
In
see
the
it.
bottom, all
It's
the way at
red
the bottom.
here.
click on your
leave.
bottom.
Leave.
Yes.
All
Yep.
right, bye.
And you want to
Later.
leave. Yeah, you guys can stay on for a minute. Everybody want to stay on for a second? Whoever wants to. Thanks, John. Bye.
Sure.
Is there anything I can answer for anybody or any comments you guys want to make for just a couple minutes?
Awesome.
I had a quick question I wanted to ask them. I don't know if you'll have the answer or not, but this is Juliet. I just had a meeting with an agent, and on my reel, I had like producer and on-camera talent, and he's like, never put producer. And I was like, well, I am one though.
Right. What did you send a corporate resume or an industry resume? You must have sent a corporate one. Or is that
No,
on
when
your
I was in their meeting with them,
on your-
when I was in the meeting with them on my resume, a lot of my jobs were producer and on-camera talent because I was producing the segments as well. But on my reel, when I had just like the little intro of my name, I had producer and / on-camera talent.
Unless it says they're looking for a producer, it's just another thing that, like Sean was saying, they're kind of very niche. And so unless they're asking for a producer or an MMJ or a host / writer, I would just say host for the most part. Just try to keep it as simple as possible, because you have to remember they're going through, in some cases, hundreds or thousands of submissions. And so, yeah, just whatever their direction is. And like Sean said, what I do is I'll cut and paste their description of what they're looking for and then just reword it in my own words a little bit. But like he said, then you're giving them their own keyword. So if their keyword on their submission or your meeting doesn't say producer, then you don't necessarily, I would put that somewhere, maybe later on, or if you're having a conversation, let it come up. But if they're just a talent agency that's looking for a host, then that's all you need. Yeah, keep it as simple as possible.
How do we feel about on-camera talent instead of host as a title?
Right now the industry uses on-air personality, which is really long. I'm like, that is so long. But I had actually asked some of the casting directors and agents, should I change the name of the group then, which is Host in LA? And they said, no, everybody knows what you're talking about. So TV host or on-air personality it's not to them. They know they know what it is. And there was a little confusion when Airbnb started calling their people hosts.
Yeah.
And so that was what the confusion was. But I feel like as long as you're saying TV host, then it's obviously. And if it's a submission, they know. Like I said, they felt like that wasn't a big deal and just leave the name Host in LA.
A lot of
Cool.
people
Thank you.
think like restaurant host. Like if you type in host into Indeed or other search engines, it's the first thing that comes up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead. Hi, everybody. Real quick,
DJ,
my name's Io. I'm sorry, I'm just calling over the phone. But I wanted to mention, I know some people were talking about casting networks, and it's kind of jumping through hoops to get materials on there or whatever. But they recently, I want to say in September, they added an unlimited membership where you can change your photos and upload your reels as often as you want. So I found that really helpful and useful.
I think that's $25 a month, right? I think that's.
Is that the $25? Okay, because I prepaid it, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
but,
for a year, I can't remember how much it is, but if you do it just on a monthly basis, it's a little bit steep, but yeah, they do offer a monthly as well.
It might be like 16.
I think 16 is if you do the annual, then it comes out to like 16, 19 a month.
Exactly.
But if you're doing just monthly, then it's a little bit steep. So, but it does allow you. And I'm having problems with it uploading from my mobile, and so which I'm often on my mobile, like most of the world. So I'm not really happy with them. I've been having a little bit of conversation with them about some of their things, but that's okay. And next question or comment or feedback.
Do you think
how you doing?
Do you think that we should be referring to ourselves then as on-air personalities? Because I've just been calling myself a host for years. And then my second question is, for some reason I couldn't access the call that you did yesterday. I couldn't get into it. Do you happen to have a recording of that?
We'd have to have Cassandra. I did not facilitate that call. So Cassandra, are you still on? I don't see you. I think she jumped off. We'll have to ask the person that facilitated that. And then as far as your other question, like I said, it's up to you what you want to call yourself. Again, the industry knows what you mean either way. So I tend to go with TV host just because I'm a minimalist and I like that it's short. So
thank you very much.
Just up to you guys. DJ, I know you've been waiting to ask a question too.
Oh, yeah, I was actually going to piggyback off what Juliet said, and I think you guys just touched upon it again as far as what to label, what your position is, because I've been putting correspondent as well. But I guess the shorter is just the more simplistic, the better. So should I just put it as host? Like my
And
position?
by correspondent, to me, that means you're living in one place and reporting for a station or an outlet in another place. Is that what you're meaning? Like to me, correspondent is confusing. I'm not sure what
Oh,
you're meaning by that.
because like for like TV hosts, I thought it was kind of like similar to like labeling it as TV host and then TV correspondent.
No, that's why I would just go TV host or on-air personality, because correspondent in some circles has a very specific meaning.
Gotcha. Okay.
I have a question. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yep, we can. You're a little bit, the wind is, but go ahead.
Okay, I wasn't able to introduce myself earlier, but I'm Ube and I joined in late. However, I have a question regarding the reel. Is that me?
Yes, I think so.
For reels, how long is it? I see some that are like 150. I see others that are like 2 minutes long. How is a reel supposed to?
Here, do you want to say hi?
Okay, everybody go ahead and mute yourselves for a minute. So you, especially there, thank you. Yeah, mute yourself. Vanessa, I'll have you mute yourself too. So it doesn't, the length is not hugely important, but you do want to keep it under 2 minutes is what the recommendation is. There's a cute little Vanessa's baby. And then, but it really depends on what's more important than the length is, does it show what they're asking for? Like Sean was saying, you can even just send a clip. I just sent for a submission a clip of the exact thing they wanted with no reel and got called in for an audition. So I'm like, my reel is not, that's not what they want anyway. It's an awesome reel, but that's not what they want. They only need this 30 seconds of me doing exactly what they asked for. So really it's going to be on a case-by-case basis. The key thing, and you heard Sean say it, is give them what they want, what they ask for, whatever's going to make their job the easiest. That's what you want to give them. So if your reel is exactly it, you know, it's an entertainment job and your reel is all entertainment, great. If not, there's no problem with cutting up your reel into the things that do apply for that submit job and just sending that. And that's where I really recommend getting a really easy editing program. I just use iMovie. I literally am constantly just changing what I'm submitting. If it's a fitness thing, I'm just only sending a couple of things like that. So the more, yes, our industry has gone almost completely niche. So why shouldn't the reel as well? That's okay to send only what they're asking for. And then if they want more, like Sean said, then they'll get on the phone with you and be like, hey, I need you to do it this way, or I need this from you.
Okay, thank you.
Going off of that, Shay, just to piggyback real quick, because I don't have an additional question, but when you're doing the 30-second or however short of a clip, if you are submitting on Actors Access or casting networks, how are you getting this to them if they're not already including an email address within the submission? Because then you're having to upload and pay every time to put up a video onto these websites. Are you researching these casting directors and finding their
I think you might have jumped on late, but somebody else had asked that as well. And there's tricks to getting around the not being able to upload it. If you have a website, you're just going to put, you know, see my reel, and then you're just going to do like a big AT, because Actors Access, none of them allow you to upload or even write the word www in the notes. So in your note, you're going to tell them where to go. This is where a website does help a little bit. Or if you have your clips on a YouTube, you're going to say, like, I'll sometimes say, see Shay Holland on YouTube, because my name is a little unusual. So I know that I'm going to come up when they go to YouTube and they're going to see that
That's
real
where
quickly.
you're putting a 30-second specific clip.
I'm doing it on my website sometimes, and then I'll literally the day I submit, I'll create a new page for just them or something, so it comes up first. Like I do, you know, I'm a, you know, so you're just gonna have to find your own tricks, and it's not, it's work, you guys. I do want to be honest about that. It's gonna take some work. It's not just I just want to just submit. You know, that's what Sean was talking about, where he can tell where people were just like he called it blast, where you're just blasting things and you're not writing him a note and you're not giving him something, you know, specific.
I have a question about the note writing, because I recently got an agent. So she kind of lets me know what, you know, if there's a self-tape that I need to put together or something like that, and I'll do that, send it in. But if they are specifying, oh, you know, like they told us today, it's very good to have notes and things like that, is that something I need to be pushing to my agent? Like, look, I saw that they put in these instructions, or I just have heard that it's good to add a note. I really want you to send this attached to X, Y, and Z. and write a
Yes,
note.
absolutely. Absolutely. Unless they start telling you not to, the more you can take charge of your own career, the better. And a lot of times they may not know something about you. Like I just saw something and they wanted somebody that was going to be comfortable on motorcycles. Well, my agent's not going to know that. So I sent him, I said, hey, I actually have, do you want to see me riding a motorcycle video? Do you want pictures of that? I actually can do that. So that it's not something as a host I would have even thought, to include. So the more you can help your agent, definitely the better.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? We'll just get one or two more. Yep.
Do you think it matters to have photos of a headshot professionally shot or not when you're submitting for something?
It has to absolutely. Well, this is the thing I would say about that. You have to think that you're going to be competing against possibly hundreds or thousands that are professionally shot. So it depends on the quality. If it's really good quality, then it doesn't matter that it's necessarily professional. But the thing with headshots, and I just got some done last month, that really changed the game for me because I had just general headshots. And my agent said, I really want to start pushing you more towards the news because she was seeing a lot of breakdowns for that. They want real newscasters. They want somebody that has that real newscaster delivery. So I went out and got headshots with me in a suit and bombshell hair. And that's what we'll submit. For fitness submissions, I have a different shot for that. I have just a fitness submission. For stuff that's like what Sean was saying with the, I'm actually in interior design. I used to be certified in that. So I have a shot of me in like a denim shirt that I submit for that. So I do mine very exactly like I said, what they want. I try to give them what they want and have different shots for each. And did it cost me a fortune? Yes, I was not happy about that. But I realized I was ready to level up my game. And I'm going to be competing against people that have been doing these things for a long, long time. And their materials are going to be killer.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Anyone else before we hang up our?
Hi, Shay.
Yep. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. I don't have a question, but I just did want to give you a shout out to say how happy I am for this group and having these like hangouts and stuff. I randomly joined the group, actually found out about the group through Barbara, and it has just been a godsend. And I also don't know how many international people you have or you think that you have in the Host in LA group, but I'm coming in from the Bahamas. So just wanted to let you know you have a Bahama mama that totally supports you and it's
awesome.
Totally getting amazing. Like it's amazing content you're putting out. So kudos to you.
Well, I am. Thank you. This is fun. One of the things that is new that's going to be coming, and this will be the circle of trust because I'm not ready to roll it out yet. And I'm going to be looking for people in the group to help with this. I want to start what I'm calling host hubs. And that means like, let's say Philip does travel, but we have a ton of travel people. And there's no reason you guys shouldn't all be connected with each other and then helping each other build content and helping each other. And so like we have a bunch of younger people that do finance and real estate. And I love that, but it's hard for and this is more for the casting directors also, so that when they get a casting, there's a hub for that. And it'll help them and it'll help us also, I think. It'll really, like Sean was saying, he doesn't like to have to scroll through the page to see what's going on. They're actually on our group. They're like elephants. They say they never forget things. So even if they don't have a casting, like he said himself, during the day, he'll just see what's going on in our world. And so that's why I've tried to say this before. That's why I have the group guidelines. It's not to be, the B word. It's because I know what casting and agents are asking for. And even though I love you guys, my goal is to get us work. Like, I love you, but I also want you working. Like, if you're not working, then, we can go to other places for just community. So I hope that doesn't sound cold-hearted or anything, but, that's really why we have the guidelines that we do, to make it as easy for them to see what's going on and who's doing it. Even if they don't have a casting, they remember. It's amazing what they remember. And I think on that, we're going to have to sign off. You guys, we're going to have another call on Monday at 4 o'clock for anyone who wants to join. I'll post that in the group, and that's going to be with a guy named James Lott, and his story is super encouraging. And he has so many platforms, and he builds them up so fast, and he gets so much work. And I don't know, I asked him the other day, I said, James, you must only sleep like 2 hours a night. And he just assured me a lot of it was just organization and knowing and doing his research. And he has, he's also a great networker. Networking, as you heard Sean say, is huge, even if it's just, you know, spending some money to go to a breakfast where somebody might be speaking. So James is going to go more in depth about how to build your own work so that people know you in our industry, know what you're doing and seeing you. So if you're, you know, if social media is not your thing, he's definitely a person that can tell you how to do it quickly. He just started his TikTok 2 weeks ago, I think, and he's already up to almost 3,000 followers. And I'm like, how are you doing that? So that's, and then on Wednesday is the cool thing that we'll be doing with a guy named Phil Palin. And Phil is a brand strategist who normally, he started out working with celebrities, especially like Shark Tank people and stuff like that. And he's going to be doing our website reviews. And unfortunately, we only have time for 10 people. You're going to actually see their websites on the screen, and he's going to be telling you how to change that or improve it or perfect it for your castings and talent agent submissions. So we're getting a lot of amazing collaborations because everybody's looking for something to do. I think I'll try and do an agent one. If COVID doesn't end by Easter, then we'll also get that. And so just, you know, if you have some ideas, go ahead and post them on a love link for me. Okay. Thanks, everybody. I'm so glad you're part of the community. Thank you, guys.
Bye. Thank you. Stay safe, everyone. Thank you. See ya.
Okay.
Take care.
Have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
You guys.
Bye.